This is called using the power of DB2 Analytics Accelerator on IMS Data. The DB2 Analytics Accelerator is not just for DB2. Actually, any Z data can be put into the accelerator, and then you can take advantage of the power of this DB2 Analytics Accelerator to do query processing in a matter of minutes. Here's what I plan to cover. If you want to take IMS data and use the DB2 Analytics Accelerator with IMS data, here are the steps that you have to do. You have to extract and maybe transform your IMS data. And I'm going to do a demo of extracting and transforming IMS data using InfoSphere DataStage. InfoSphere DataStage is an ETL tool, extract, transform, load tool that IBM sells. Once we've got the data extracted from IMS, before we can load that into IDAA or IBM DB2 Analytics Accelerator, we have to define the tables of the IMS segments into both DB2 and the DB2 Analytics Accelerator, and I'll go through how to do that. And then we'll take this extracted data that we got from IMS, and we'll load that into the DB2 Analytics Accelerator by using the DB2 Analytics Accelerator Loader for ZOS tool. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah, or the IDAA Loader for ZOS tool. We'll use that tool to load the data not into DB2, only into the IDAA Accelerator. And then we'll enable, enable the query for acceleration, and we'll actually submit a query and make sure that the query is being offloaded from DB2 into the accelerator, and it's being processed there. So those are the steps if you want to, take IMS data and put it into IDAA and take advantage of that. So I'm going to end this presentation here and start my demo. So let's do that. Coming up on my screen, you should see it now, is what's known as the DataStage client. And this is the client piece of DataStage. I'm running it on Windows. And you can use DataStage to design jobs to do the extract, transform, and load. And very nice product, very simple to use. I often say my grandmother from India could use it. So let's do that. Let's first design a job. In a matter of minutes, you'll see that we can design a job to extract data from IMS. So I'm going to go up to the top here, click on File, and then click on New. And it comes back and it says, well, do you want to create a parallel job or a job that consists of a sequence of events? And so we're just going to go with the parallel job, and we click OK. And then DataStage, what it does is it gives you this canvas. Just like an artist, you have a canvas on which you can graphically design jobs that will do ETL. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a job right here that's going to extract data from IMS. So what we do is we drag icons to this canvas, and the first icon we want to do is under the database tab here. So I'm going to click on database. You'll see there are various icons in here, and we're going to use the JDBC connector. So I'm going to drag that icon onto my canvas here. So we're going to actually use JDBC access to go from DataStage into IMS and then retrieve the data. And then once the data is obtained, we want to transform it. So if I click on the processing tab here and I scroll down, there's a transformer icon, and I can select that and drag that over here. There we go. And then, so the data will be extracted from IMS using the JDBC connector icon, then it will be transformed using this transformer icon, and then we'll store that data into a file. So I'm going to click on the File tab on my left hand here, and then it gives you, various types of files you can use. So we'll just go with a sequential file, and I'm going to drag that over here onto the canvas. Bring that level. There we go. And then what I want to tell DataStage is the flow of the data. So the JDBC connector is first going to connect to IMS and extract the data. And then it's going to send that data to the transformer stage. So I simply do a right-click and then draw a line that goes from the JDBC connector icon to the transformer icon. And so that's a link, and DataStage gives it a name. In this case, it's calling it DS Link 3. So that's telling DataStage, once the data is obtained from IMS, send it to the transformer stage where it's going to do some transformation. Now I right-click on the transformer stage and again hook that up to my sequential file, and DataStage gives it a name. This link is called DSLink4. And that's telling DataStage that the data is going to flow after it's been transformed. It's going to be sent to the sequential file, and that's where it's going to be stored. So that's my job. That's basically what we're going to do. Extract the data, transform it, and then plop it into a file. Now, we're going to look at each one of these icons and then specify some values, and then boom, we'll be ready to run our job. So let's click on the let's double click on the JDBC connector icon. So if I double click on this, it opens up. And here, you have to specify various parameters. So under the Properties tab, the first thing you want to specify is the URL, the connection URL. Which IMS system do I want to connect to? So I already have that. I'm just going to paste that in here. And there it is. There's my connection URL for my JDBC connection. The IP address is called zserveros.demos.ibm.com. That's my IP address. 7013 is my port. GSP is the PSP in my IMS system that points me to the databases that I want to access. And on the URL, you can also put in the user ID and password, and so I put that over there. Generate SQL at runtime says, do you want DataStage to create the SQL to go access IMS data? And we said, yeah, that's fine. And then the name of the table. In IMS, we don't have tables. We have segments arranged in a hierarchy, but every segment is comparable to a table. And every occurrence of a segment, segments can have multiple occurrences, every occurrence of a segment is really a row in that table. So all you really, when it says table name, we're really talking about a segment in IMS. So I'm going to go against a country segment. I know that there's a segment called a country segment. I'm going to extract that data. And then the only other data that I want to change here is this record count. We'll change that to 0. 0 says, bring them all in. Don't limit to how many rows. Just bring the whole thing in. So it's going to go to the country segment and bring in all occurrences of the country segment. Then we go to columns. Now, what columns do you want? Or columns, by the way, in the relational world are called fields. What fields do you want? What columns are called fields in IMS land. And prior to starting this demo, one of the first things I did was Infosphere has something called Infosphere Metadata Asset Manager, IMAM. And what you can do with IMAM is just, you give it the URL or connect to the IMS system, go to the IMS catalog and pull in the information for the database. So I already pulled in the information for the country segments. I'm going to click on load, and it's going to go into my file system here, and I'm just going to select the stuff that I already pulled in earlier, and here it is, country. I highlight that, and then I go OK. And there it is. It pulls in all the fields or columns that are available. These are the available columns in that segment. And on the right-hand side, it says which ones it has selected. And it selects all of them. Now, you don't have to extract all the columns of that table. So, for example, maybe euro in use, I don't want that. I just click the back arrow, and it's taken out. Maybe flag image, I don't want that. I just click the back arrow, and it's taken out. So I'm not extracting all the columns, just some of the columns. These 7 columns is what I'm extracting from my IMS database, specifically the segment or table called country. And I click OK. And that's it. That's all the parameters or the values that you specify in the JDBC connector icon. Now we go to the transformer stage, and there's a link going into the transformer stage called DSLink3, and the one that's going out is DSLink4. So DSLink3 represents the input, and DSLink4 represents the output to the stage, which is the transformer stage. So let's double-click on the transformer stage, and here it is. And it tells you all the columns coming in on DSLink3. And then under here, DSLink4, we are going to tell it which columns we want going out. So for now, we're going to select all the columns. So, just do a control and you select all the columns here. I drag them into here. And now what I'm telling DataStage is all these columns coming on DS-Link 3 are also going out on DS-Link 4. Now, on any one of these columns, if I want to do any transformation, I just click on that, and then double-click on that, and start using built-in functions or routines that I created, or functions that DataStage has, and then you can start changing or transforming that data. But for now, let's just leave it at that. Let's not do any transformations, and you just click OK. So we specified the values for the transformer stage. We specified what's coming in, what's going out. Now let's go to the sequential file. And again, some values you need to specify. What's the name of the file? You got to give it a name. So it says file equals question mark. So you just select that, and over to the right, you give it a name. So I'm going to store that in a folder called /temp, and I'll give it a name called zdemo. And that's really all I need for now here. In the format column, there are other things. Delimiter equals. Do you want a delimiter? It says comma. We don't need delimiters between columns, so we'll just right-click on that and remove. And then that's really it. There isn't much else we need to do. The columns, we look at columns. These are the columns that are going to come into this file. So we go, okay, that's good enough. Basically we need to specify the name of the file. That's all we did. So here it is. That's my job. It's now designed. It's created. Within a matter of minutes, I have now created a job that will extract, transform, and then load that data into a file. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. So I go to File. I go Save, right, in my Jobs folder, and I'll give it a name. We'll call it zdemo. You go Save. So my file is now saved, my job is saved, and I'm going to compile it. And this little icon at the top looks like grapes to me. That's used for compile. So I just click on that, and now compilation is in progress. And it comes back and it says job successfully compiled with no errors. Okay, great. So we close that. The job is compiled. Now I'm going to run it. And here's a little green arrow over here. I'm going to click on that green arrow. That's for run. No limits, so we could just go run, and it's now going to run. And you'll notice that the links will change color from black to blue. That says data is now going over those links. And finally, it'll turn green when it's completed. So now you see the links are green. That says, okay, we're done. The job has finished. And even the job log at the bottom, it says finished job zdemo, right? And up here, it tells you 21 rows were extracted from that table called country. Right? So within a matter of minutes, we put together a job which doesn't really require a whole lot of technical ability. Just drag and drop a few icons, specify some values, and boom, you're done. Right? Now,
may I interrupt, Deepak, and ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
I think people who are watching the demo might wonder. This was 21 rows. If there were a significantly higher number of rows, would it happen pretty quickly too, or how long do you think that takes? There were in thousands of rows, for instance.
Yeah, it would happen pretty quickly too. Performance varies, depends on what level of the segment you're trying to access in IMS. But we've seen thousands and thousands of rows, extracted within. We've seen hundreds and thousands of rows extracted within a few minutes.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Thanks.
And then look at the sequential file. If I click on that, there's an option here. It's called View Data. So I'm going to click on that. And it says rows to display 100, and you can display more than 100 if you want to. But 100 is okay. We could click OK. And so now it's going to go off and display the rows for us. There it is. So here's my first column, Go Sales Route Key, Country Code, Country Encoding, Sales Region, and then I can scroll over to the right and look at all the other columns. So it has now extracted all these rows that I wanted to, and I can take a look at them. So I'm going to close this out for now. Cancel out here. And again, if I wanted to, I could go into the transformer stage and transform some of these rows. But for now, the purpose of this demo is to get data into IDA. So let's do that. Let's get to that. So I've got my file that's extracted IMS data. Now, DataStage, the DataStage server, the engine, if you will, can run either on Z-Linux or it can run on a distributed platform. So in this particular case, I've got my DataStage engine or DataStage server running on Z-Linux. And we could take this file and just FTP it over to ZOS. So I've already done that. So come on over to my ZOS system. Here it is. This is my ZOS system. And I'm going to show you the file, zdemo. And there it is. There's my file. And again, I can scroll to the right and scroll back. So I've got this data now sitting on my ZOS system. It's in a file. It's called zdemo. DNet770 is my ID. That's my name of the file, zdemo. And I can now load it into IDA. But first, before we do that, we have to define the table, first to DB2, and then we have to define the table to the IDA appliance itself. Now, to define the table to DB2, it's just a matter of issuing DDL, create table, and here are the columns and the data types. So where do we get the DDL? Well, there's a product that the IMS folks provide. It's free of charge. It's called the IMS Explorer for Development, and I've brought that up right now. This is my IMS Explorer for Development, and on my IMS database system right here, I'm going to go ahead and connect to my IMS database system. And I'm connected, and I'm now going to look at this GSP, just expanding into my tables. And here are all the tables, or segments, if you will. And notice here's my country segment. And if I now do a right-click on the country segment, and I go Generate DDL, just click on that, and then just go Next, just go with the default. It generates the DDL for you right here. Create table country, here's the first column, character, not null, and so on. So it generates all this stuff for you, and all you have to do is cut and paste and put that into Spoofy and just go ahead and create that table. So let's go back to my ZOS system here. I'm now going to go into DB2 Spoofy on my TSO here. So P for IBM products. I'm just going to my Spoofy panel, nothing new. Option 2. Here it is. You'll see this is my DB2 primary option menu, and I'm going to choose option 1 for Spoofy. And I'm going to go in Spoofy, and I'm going to now create my country table. Let me go back and copy that DDL. Here it is. I'm just going to copy that. And then I'm going to paste that in here. And there it is. There's my create table statement. So I'm now ready to execute that in Spoofy. And I hit enter. And there you go. The create table country statement was executed. SQL code is 0. So now I've created a table in DB2. And the table has no rows because we haven't done any loading. We haven't loaded any data into it. Now that the table is defined in DB2, now we need to go define it on IDAA. And a very easy way of doing that is using the IDAA Studio client. And I'm going to bring that up. And here it is. I've got my DB2 Analytics Accelerator Studio client. And the accelerator is called IDAA D202. That's my accelerator appliance, if you will. My ID is DNet770. So here are the tables that are defined. Now notice my country table is not here. It's showing me my tables defined, but it doesn't. These are the tables defined to my appliance. So what I really want to do is add that country table from DB2 in here also. So up here is a button called Add. I click on Add, and then I filter by my user ID, DNet770. And these are all the tables, and the country table is the one that's not defined to my appliance. So I select that, and I click this right arrow. That tells it these are the tables, country table is to be added, and I click OK. And it's now going to go run off and add the country table, and there it is, right here. I'm going to highlight that. So you see the country table is now defined to the appliance, to the IBM DB2 Analytics Accelerator appliance. But you'll notice on the acceleration it says disabled. So no queries will be sent to this table because the table is not being accelerated. So the easiest way to do that is there's a load button here. You just click on that. Even though no data is being loaded this time, we just click load, and it brings up this wizard, and it says, you know, it only has one partition. Do you want to enable this one partition? And we go OK, and you click on that, and it's now going to come back and tell us that that table is now enabled for query acceleration. There it is. You see, the disabled is changed to enabled. So here's what I've done so far. I went into DataStage. I extracted my IMS data. I have that in a file, and I have that over in my ZOS system. I've gone into DB2. I've defined the table in DB2. And now I've also defined that table into my IDAA appliance. My next step is to simply load that table load the data from my file into this table. Now I don't want to load the data into DB2. You don't have to do that. You could if you wanted to. I just want to take that data and load it into the country table in my appliance. And so for that, we have a tool which is called the IDAA Loader tool, or the IBM DB2 Analytics Accelerator Loader for ZOS tool. So let's go take a look at that tool. And I'm going to back out of here. I'm on my ZOS TSO system. And this tool, the IDAA Loader tool, does two things. It can do one of two things. It can take an input file and take the data and load that into the IDAA appliance. Or, if you want, it can load that same data into DB2 as well at the same time, in parallel. In our case, we don't want to load the data into DB2. We just simply want to load the data into the IDAA Loader tool. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to load the data into there. Now, the easiest way to invoke this tool, you just submit JCL. It's very, very simple. I've got some JCL already created. I believe it's this member, IDAA JCL. And here's what my JCL looks like. You'll notice in the sysin dd asterisk, there's a template option. And in there is the name of my input file, dnet770.zdemo. So that tells this loader tool, this is the file. I want you to grab data from this file and load it into my IDAA Loader tool. The other couple of things that we specify in the JCL, I'm going to scroll down, load data, and then notice I've got IDAA underscore only. The only says load the data only into IDAA. Don't also load it into DB2. And what's the name of my accelerator? The appliance in which I'm loading the data, it's IDAA D202. And in that appliance, which table are we loading? Into table dnet770.country. And these are the columns. And the data for these columns, the positions in my input file. This is the stuff that today you have to manually code, unfortunately. Right? So all you basically do is you just run this JCL, submit the JCL. Now before I do that, I just want to show you, if you're not somebody who's if you hate coding JCL, the loader tool also has ISPF panels that will generate the JCL for you. So I want to quickly show you that, and I'll come back and run that JCL that I had. I'm going to go into my DB2 tools. I'm going to go into DB2 admin tools here. And you'll see there's an option in my panel here. It says HLO, DB2 Analytics Accelerator Loader. So if I choose HLO, right, it brings me to the set of panels that are for the loader. And if I go into option 1, which is my profiles, if I now look at IDAA test, you see here, you can say input dataset name, and you can provide the name of your input dataset name. You can specify the accelerator name. You can specify the table name. You can specify where the column information is in which library. And you just plug in these values, and then you say build, and it creates the JCL for you, right? The JCL that I showed you earlier. That's all it does. So if you're not into coding JCL, you can use the panels. Let's go back and run our JCL, if you will. Here we go. 2. IDAA JCL, there it is. Select that. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, you know what? Let me do something different. Let me do this. I'm going to go run a query against my table. My table doesn't have any data in it, so it should come back and say, no data. So let's go into Spoofy and issue a call, DB2 to Spoofy. There it is. I'm going to delete this stuff. And then I'm going to issue a query and tell DB2 to send that on to IDAA. So this is my query. I'm just going to cut and paste. So here it is. I'm saying set current query acceleration equals all. That tells DB2 I'm submitting a query, send it to the accelerator, right? Select everything, asterisk says select everything from the country table, and we're doing read only here. So that's my query. I'm going to go ahead and submit that, hit enter, and look, it comes back and it says number of rows displayed is 0. No data in there, right? Great. So now let's go load the data. So let's do that. I'm going to go into my JCL. Here it is, IDAA JCL that I created. And that's my ZDemo file. And I'm just going to type in submit at the top, hit enter, and boom, the job has been submitted. And it's just 21 rows, so it shouldn't take long. And now, meantime, we'll go back to Spoofy. The job has run, it has ended, maximum condition code 4, that means everything is good. I'm now going to go and submit that same query. I'm going to go into Spoofy here, option 1. And there it is, same query, right? Set current query acceleration equals all, telling DB2, listen, take my query and give it to the accelerator. Select everything from the country table for read only. That's same query as before. I'm now going to run it, and there it is. It comes back. It says number of rows displayed is 21. So there you have it. A very simple demo where we extracted IMS data and then put it into file, and then use the IDAA loader tool to load that data into the IDAA appliance, and then we issued queries against it. Very simple to do. If you're an IMS customer out there and you want to take advantage of the IDAA appliance with IMS data, that's my name, Deepak Kohli. There's my email ID, deepakk@us.ibm.com. Feel free to email me if you've got any questions. Thank you.